All right, folks, you've been watching a CBS News special report, and if you were watching, you know that the Supreme Court has decided another case that impacts abortion rights in America. The court has ruled to allow doctors to perform abortions to treat serious medical emergencies in the state of Idaho. That is a state with a near total abortion ban. This follows the justice's decision to overturn Roe versus Wade 2 years ago. Now, we got an idea of how the court would rule on Wednesday when a draft version of that decision was accidentally uploaded to the Supreme Court website. It was quickly taken down, but we had a little preview. So let's continue to dig into what this ruling means with defense attorney and former federal prosecutor Scott Fredericksen, who joins me now. CBS News campaign reporter Shaa Miselle is also joining us. Scott, let me begin with you, and let's dig into a little bit of what we heard at the end of the special report. The implications that this ruling will have for the other states that have similar near total abortion bans on the books. What does it mean for them?
Well, that's a great question. And unfortunately, I think the Supreme Court's decision today leaves that a bit unclear. Keep in mind, this decision today reinstates an injunction issued by the lower court, which means in Idaho, abortions can go forward where it is necessary to stabilize a woman's health. That likely means in the other 6 states, that is the law now. What I mean when I say it's somewhat ambiguous is that the Supreme Court today dismissed the case. It did not issue a substantive opinion. It said this case should not have come before us. It was improvidently granted, so they're sending it back for further litigation. All that means is that we're going to see a lot more litigation about this and related abortion cases. For the time being, it's a victory for those who have challenged the Idaho law in connection with the federal statute, which mandates that all hospitals anywhere are required to provide care to stabilize a patient in emergency situations. So for now, that is the law. But it also means that for now, we're going to see a lot more litigation. And I would add that Justice Jackson, in his very strong dissent, pointed out that essentially talking to her colleagues that we're ducking that issue when we are perfectly prepared to address it today. 3 other conservative justices essentially agreed with her as well. But in the end, that will come at another day. For now, the law is that the Idaho hospitals and others in those other 6 states who are restrictive abortion laws must provide abortions to women when their health requires it to stabilize their situation.
All right, Scott, thank you so much for standing by for these decisions. We'll be talking with you as we await more decisions, perhaps tomorrow or even next week. Thank you very much. As promised, CBS News campaign reporter Shaa Miselle joins us now. So let's talk about reproductive rights, Shawna, and how they've been such a big campaign issue. There's a big debate tonight. How do we expect the candidates to address the decision from the Supreme Court today?
Vlad, good morning. We're already here in Atlanta ahead of tonight's debate. And in the wake of this decision, the Biden campaign is already responding. We have a senior advisor to the Biden campaign on this Supreme Court decision saying women's health, lives, and freedoms remain in peril across the country because of Donald Trump. Because of Trump's Supreme Court majority overturned Roe versus Wade, women are being turned away from emergency rooms and forced to the brink of death before receiving the care they need. You can almost expect Joe Biden to similarly take this approach tonight on the debate stage. We know abortion has been a huge part of Biden's re-election campaign and platform, and it is one of the issues that he says should be top of mind for voters, and he is really hoping that this is one of the issues that will propel him back to the White House, particularly in some of those swing states where we could see abortion on the ballot, like Arizona and Nevada.
So, Shawna, you've been on the campaign trail all year long. What are voters telling you? And not so much voters who are Democrats who already plan to vote for President Biden, or even Republicans who already plan to vote for Donald Trump. I want to know about those undecided voters, those people in the middle, perhaps independent, perhaps suburban women. What are they telling you?
That's the really interesting part, Vlad. This issue of abortion really has voters split and rethinking how they've talked about this issue in previous years. since the Dobbs decision. You've seen issues like IVF procedures kind of come into focus, and now it has become a whole gambit of reproductive rights. So those undecided voters, even voters who say they support former President Donald Trump, are still trying to quell that opinion with believing that women should have access to abortion. And even those who don't believe in abortion are trying to reconcile that with kind of seeing that they believe some women should have access to abortions in certain cases like incest or rape.
All right, Shaa Miselle reporting for us from Atlanta, where that debate is happening tonight. Shawna, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Well, let's continue to dig into this with Elizabeth Sepper. She's a professor of law at the University of Texas, and she joins me now. So Elizabeth, give our viewers a little sense of the history of this case. And I'm particularly intrigued by Associate Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson's fiery dissent. Break that down for us.
This case originates from a lawsuit the Biden administration filed against Idaho. There's a conflict in Idaho between the Federal Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act, which requires stabilizing treatment, including abortion, for emergency medical conditions. That includes conditions where someone's health is in serious jeopardy. But Idaho's abortion ban says doctors can't provide emergency abortion care unless a woman's life is at stake. And so there's a conflict between these two laws. The Biden administration prevailed at early stages in the trial court, receiving a preliminary injunction against the Idaho law. So doctors were momentarily allowed to perform emergency abortions consistent with EMTALA. The case then went up to the Court of Appeals, the Ninth Circuit, at which point the Supreme Court reached out and took the case before the Ninth Circuit could issue any opinion or even hear the case on the merits. And at that point in time, the Supreme Court stayed the trial court's preliminary injunction, which meant that EMTALA did not apply to pregnant people in Idaho since January, so that lots of women were airlifted out of the state because they could not receive emergency treatment in Idaho emergency departments. And so Justice Jackson really reprimanded the conservative majority of the Supreme Court. It was clear the conservative justices had determined to reach out and take this case early, had determined to leave Idaho women without emergency abortion care for 5 months. And then here we are at the end of June, and suddenly they have changed their minds. And what she reminds us is this just delays the inevitable, that these cases will be back at the U.S. Supreme Court probably after the election. All right, Professor Elizabeth Sepper, thank you very much. We appreciate you. CBS News campaign reporter, attorney Katrina Kaufman is standing by outside the Supreme Court. Katrina, so three big cases out of the way today. What are we waiting on? You know, everybody is hoping that we will get that decision on January 6th and presidential immunity. What are your thoughts?
We're waiting for both of those decisions, and a lot of people think that immunity will probably be the last one that this court puts out. I mean, the Supreme Court can be unpredictable. As of now, tomorrow is the final opinion day on the calendar, but it's starting to seem quite likely that this could bleed into next week. And of course, that immunity case is about whether or not a president is immune from criminal prosecution. The other big case that we're still waiting on is Fisher, which is about the January 6th Capitol rioters and whether or not the obstruction of an official proceeding statute that was used in hundreds of these cases can stand. That statute has always been used in relation to the destruction of documents or records, which is a really different context than the storming of the Capitol. And that case has important implications for the D.C. election interference case against Donald Trump, which also has obstruction of an official proceeding in 2 elements of the charges.
All right, Katrina, I hope you've booked an extended stay at your hotel. Thanks so much. We'll be checking in with you, I'm sure, tomorrow and perhaps even next week.